Yeah, yeah. Little out of stater.
Yeah, I'm from here.
Oh, born and raised?
Yeah, I was born in East LA
Oh, okay.
and then raised in Chino.
Have you ever been out?
Uh, it's windy.
Oh, that's wind.
That's wind.
That sounds like a person.
That was not a nope. That was wind.
That's what we're gonna say. That's wind.
That was wind.
This sounds like one of those things that when somebody interviews me later and it's like, so Stephanie had something in her garage, like they hid a person in there for years, and you didn't say anything. She said it was wind. I just believed her.
Yeah.
Anywho.
No, I have way too much crap in the back. There's a lot. There's family. There's like play sets back there and bikes and things, and they just. Oh, I should make sure the fence is closed. That's gonna be an annoying noise.
That's fine. I'm cool with whatever.
It is closed.
Okay.
What is that? This is concerning.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, it isn't closed. Okay.
Demons. Ooh. I love that.
It's probably still gonna make noise. Are you recording that?
It's already streaming.
Oh, good.
And so it's
because sanity is not something you do here.
Cool.
And now the guy's mowing the lawn. Oh,
Nice.
it was a person.
Oh.
I should
Did you
close
guys
this.
keep your lawn? Do you guys have a communal lawnmower?
No, we have a gardener.
You have a garden. Flex.
I know. What? I know. If you thought
Must
I was
be nice.
Mexican, I'm that kind of Mexican.
Mexican who has other Mexicans.
Yeah. That's how you know you've made it as a Mexican when you hire others of your kind.
And I feel like it's the same for being black. We hire your other.
It's a whole other level when you get to hire somebody who's white.
Oh yeah.
That's when you're like, fuck, you made it.
I'm really here, because white people hire jobs are definitely like a very specific, like who's walking your dog.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Well, it's like because I have a gardener. If it was white and his name was like Troy, he'd be a landscape architect.
Yeah. He's got a plan for your front lawn. He's gonna feng shui. He went to a place and learned a lot about the art of gardening.
Yeah. It's okay. Is it weird though? Because I just realized there's been bunny noises in the back, there's been trains in the back, and now I have a garden.
I mean, I think it's an aesthetic. That's the thing. Everybody, when this is just like the long run of it, right?
Uh-huh.
Everybody in the beginning of the podcast, the stuff when they first start, always has the like makeshift. You just do what you stuff, and they're like you as the producer of it, the creator of it, you're very aware of all of those noises.
I feel like I should close.
Maybe.
That. Okay, I'm gonna close that. It's gonna probably get a little dark.
It's like I could power through, but it is also like.
We're in the makeshift. This got super creepy and romantic all at the same time.
You know, I like that it also has a disco ball.
Okay, so you've never seen that before?
No.
So what it is you hang like a ball. A lot of people put tennis balls, but for some reason my dad was feeling classy.
Okay.
Put a disco ball. It's so when you're pulling a truck in, when there's not all this crap here, it's a place to stop so you don't run into anything. So it's like your windshield hits that and then you don't go further.
That's a great idea.
It's a drunk fix.
Smart.
Yeah.
You know, at a certain point, you realize there's got to be a better way.
Yeah. So that's what alcoholics do.
I mean, you find a way one way or another.
Exactly. Okay, so I hit record a while ago. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't.
You were recording.
Cool.
I was like, I'm gonna record too.
Works.
So I'm here with Zero. I'm super excited.
Yay.
Actually. Because I think I told you all the time, like you're one of my favorites.
Oh, thanks for having me. Also, let me say that up top because I was talking with Stephanie earlier. For those of you who weren't listening, which is nobody because neither of us were recording all the time. But I was saying like I actually enjoyed this podcast. Like it's weirdly infectious. Like because as a comedian, at the very least, you're like getting everyone else's insights, and they're so similar but like slightly different.
Yes.
That it's interesting to see everyone's process, and so I like that part of it. But yeah, I also appreciate that you consider me to be one of even favorite. When people say that I'm any version of like I like your stuff, I like don't know how to take it. I'm like thanks. I just kind of do my thing. I feel like I'm such a weirdo. Like I don't know.
I think because you're okay being a weirdo, I like it.
Yeah.
Like I like when people go up and they're very like genuine to who they are, and it's not an act. And I've never once seen you and been like, oh my gosh, he's putting on a persona to be up on stage. And so that genuine version of you is what I love. Because like having a conversation with you in person versus seeing you on stage, it seems so similar.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I've heard that conversation a lot. Like people doing the persona, and it's fine. Whatever gets the laugh, whatever you like doing.
Yeah.
But like, I'm so naive that like I'm like, no, that's you and you when you're off stage.
Yeah.
And so like when I run into people and it's like slightly different, I'm like, oh, okay, that's like extra you.
Yeah.
And this is like you. And it's like, it's whenever I hear that, it's like, yeah, I don't feel like I do that. Like I feel like I'm just letting you in on like how my brain works on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
It's like if you talk to me long enough, you would eventually hear my bits.
Yes. And I have people that tell me that too. They're like, oh, are you doing a bit right now? And I was like, no, I'm just being sarcastic.
Right. It's crazy how like, I don't know if have you ever gotten this where like since you started doing stand, like you're already a pretty like funny, silly person. Like that's just your personality. But for some reason when you start doing stand-up, people start calling you out as a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
Like since I started doing comedy, I was always a goofy kid. But since I started doing comedy, I never more get people being like, you do comedy, don't you? And I like feel like I got called out. I'm like, I mean, yeah, but that's not like why I'm doing this. It's just I am
I've
this.
had people be like, oh, you should look into performing or you should look into stand-up comedy. And I'm like, that was never. And I think because like I have stage fright.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm also kind of a little bit like when again, it's one of those weird things. But I feel like most people, like the people who end up doing it, they say the enemy of the best is the good.
Mm-hmm.
Like people who kind
I love that.
rough at it, like they're destined, if they really like it and are passionate about it, they're destined to get better than people who are good at it because they have to work harder and because they struggle to work harder. And I also had the like school freaking speeches.
Uh-huh.
Like I was the type of kid, like if you watch me, I would shake, and this is gonna get a little gross here. My thing was always the way my nervousness works is I always got like, I gotta go to the bathroom, like real bad. And so I would get on the stage or like any sort of presentation with like note cards or whatever, and immediately I had to fart. And it was the worst because I would go and then like my brain, I would go like, okay, I just need to do that. I know how my body works. I know what I need to do. So I would step over to the side. Light went out. I guess.
Oh, because the garage.
Yeah, garage light went out.
I don't think there's another light in here.
Oh well, it's fine.
It's romantic.
Yeah, you know. But convenience after dark. But
now you made it weird. I don't think there's another light. But yeah, like okay, so you have to fart.
Yeah, so then I would
fart?
go. No, not anymore. It's like I'm good now. Like now I'm like I get it. Like give me a new. So I'm pretty comfortable on stage, but if you give me a new venue, then my brain's like I've never been here before. I'm nervous, and then it'll start up. But it's not as bad as it used to be. Like before, I would go before I get my speech, I would step over to the side, fart, and then come back to where I was standing. But the problem is that if anybody knows this about farts, every human should have gone through this at some point. You fart away from the place, then you move to the place, and the fart follows you. Like, you thought I was going to stay back there?
It's science.
Like, why?
The science of farts.
I'm like, I don't appreciate it.
No,
but,
that's definitely.
Yeah, that was my thing.
I shake on stage. I still shake on stage.
Really? I don't notice.
It's, again, most people don't, but it was so funny. I was at the Comedy Store, and I was doing, the first time I was at the Comedy Store.
How long ago was this?
This was a year ago, I want to say.
Okay.
And so I've been at it for 3 years.
Yeah, I've still never been up at the Comedy Store. Right?
I've gotten to be there a couple times. I know.
Yeah, I've gone several times, but like there are buckets a lot of.
No, it wasn't for public.
Oh really? You were just like on the show.
Yeah.
Sick.
I know.
What show?
It was, oh my gosh, the first time it was with Michael Q.
Okay.
So it's a bringer show.
I mean, hey, whatever.
But it was definitely interesting, and then I've done a roast battle there.
Nice.
Yeah.
How'd you fare?
I won.
Really?
Like unanimous. Audience was all like not like it was against Johnny Stewart, so. I mean,
oh, you had a lot of material.
But this is the thing though, is Johnny has done roast longer than I've been doing comedy, so I was terrified.
Really?
And then
you know what's weird? I do get there's something about your energy, like when you go into that mode, that like, yeah, I bet you got some good like singers.
That's the thing is, I didn't write my jokes until about an hour before the show.
Yeah.
For him. And then all my rebuttals were in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, I think, I thrive in being a smartass.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I remember the first time I got off the stage, and I went in the back, and one of my friends is there, and he's a comic, and he came over and he's like, good job. He's like, holy shit, you're vibrating. And I was just like, yeah. And I think I was like shaking for like the next like 40 minutes because like we got the whole show and then we went to get drinks and I'm still like.
Yeah, that happened to me when I was like young in a totally different scenario. When I was learning how to drive, my mom put me on this road that was like, make a left turn, which is like the worst turn to make a new driver do.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And she's like, you just gotta go. You just gotta do it. You just gotta do it. And I'm like, okay. And I just did it. And then I got scared and like overcorrected. And then we went into a tree. And then like we go back home. And I thought I was chill. I was like, oh, yeah, that was kind of nerve-wracking. And then I had like leftover popcorn, and I was just like shoveling it into my face. I'm like, I'm fine, I'm good. She's like, are you sure? Because you're shaking and eating like a lot. And I'm like, I guess not. I guess I'm not okay. But like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I think the nerves. I could see that. Like, I don't like being scared of anything. So for me, it's like I have to get over this. But I do feel it because I get off stage and I'll be shaking and oh man, I messed that up. I could have done this better and things like that. So it's like a constant battle for me.
You said you've been in it 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've also been. I'm in the third year, heading to fourth, and I believe June is my comedy birthday. But do you feel like I don't know? This is something that I did like recently.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a show coming up this Friday at Flappers because I went back because like that's where when I first came to California. I started at Flappers Claremont. That was like the very first open mic I did.
That's my first open mic too. Was Flappers in Claremont.
Yeah, and that was my first open mic here. I started doing comedy in Missouri, but I was like, okay, hope it works in California, and then it went over pretty well. But like then I started hitting the Wednesday Flappers in Burbank audition mic.
Yeah.
And so that's where I started, and at the time it was like, oh man, I gotta do it, and then you would get called. It was like such a big deal. It's like, oh, I got the email, they got me the show, or whatever. And now it's been so long since that, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing anything. I don't have any shows on the docket. Let me go back and see what that is. Let me see how that is. It's so crazy to see like how different it is to like people who just started.
Yeah.
Like brand new people, because I know at the Riverside Hideaway they also have a lot of people do the like first timers on the Cherry Pop, and it's like it's so interesting to see like premises that aren't even premises, and like the subtlety of like you can see it, like you can see their hand doing the subtle shake, and I'm like I remember that, like that's crazy.
Looking back and you're like, oh, I have gotten better at this.
Yeah, it's like I didn't notice how much so, but like then you see it and you're like, wow, that's just time. It's just you just stay in it and it keeps coming.
Learning how to stand on stage is like the first thing you have to do.
Existing. Like like half the battle feels like just being comfortable. Like jokes definitely have jokes, obviously. Everybody should have their stuff and like something you're trying to say. But like honestly I would put that, for me personally, I'd put it like third. To me there are like three things. This is just how my brain works.
Okay.
With doing stand up for me it's like a triangle. And it's like there's the joke itself, which is like it in the written form. Like if you put it on a piece of paper, like somebody reads it and that's funny to them. There's how you do the joke, which is like the performance of it. Like the different way you went loud or you went soft or you're doing it slow or you're doing it fast. And then there's how you feel doing the joke.
Okay.
And like that's where I get into it. And there's sometimes I talk to people who are in comedy and I'm like, there's like a zen art to it. Because like that's where you get into like the comfortability on stage. Like if you have a joke that like is perfectly written and like you know how to play it out actually like entirely, you practice it, but then you get on stage and you feel like it sucks, more times than not that's going to supersede the other two things.
Yeah.
Like conversely, if you think it's amazing but the written and all the stuff isn't quite there, you can kind of supersede. So to me it's like how you feel doing it supersedes writing and how you're doing it, but I still say writing is number 2, and then underneath that is like how you do it, like the technical aspects.
I really like that. I've never heard somebody like break it down like that, and I appreciate that. Oh my gosh, I'm like gonna kind of like evaluate my own.
Yeah, it's just it's a very, it's like, because that's where like I don't, because you've done improv mics too. Yeah.
Yes.
Like
I hate them.
Yeah, they're a very meta art that like kind of tests that theory.
Yeah.
That like when you take away someone's like written and they don't have it prepared at all, so it's just you on stage, like those first, I did the one for the buddy system one where
Yeah.
like you get to pull 3,
Yeah.
and then like by my first one is always kind of like my shaky worst one. By the time I get to my third one, I feel pretty like okay on stage again, and then once I'm me on stage, whatever it is just funny because I'm me again. I'm like fine.
I think for me, that's where because like I just hosted an improv mic, and I was like, this is like everything I hate all in one. And
but at least you're putting yourself in the fire.
Yeah, but but like hosting for me has been like that. It's like, okay, I have to start, I have to do this, and then I have to be able to respond and still be myself, and like kind of balancing all these things, like take the temperature of the room, and that's always been kind of an interesting battle for me. Yeah. So okay, when you first started comedy, how did you start writing? Like, what was your process for finding jokes?
So my process for finding jokes is like, it sounds so pretentious when I say it, but it's like I exist, and then something will come to me that I think is funny or makes me smile, and then I go, oh, something about this is funny, and then I put it in my notes as like the base form of it. It's like that's funny for some reason, and then I'll run through it. Like I'll do like mock trials with myself as if I'm in front of a stand-up audience, where I'm just like running through like doing the stand-up bit, and then eventually like I'm like, that's really funny to me. It's like whenever I can't not smile, or like I think like that's so goofy. Those are the two. Or when I'm like my Barbie bit, like that bit is so, it's one of those like it's pushing the boundary so much that I love it. Like it's pushing them into that like comedy, yes, but like one man act like a lot.
So that joke in particular makes me laugh so much because that was when my kids were there.
Yeah.
And I just remember we left, and my daughter looks at me and she's like, he had a lot of issues with Barbie.
Yeah, it's such a, I was talking to some other female comedian. She was like, it's like, I love that bit, and I was like, I'm glad you do, but like, she's like, how does it not hit? I'm like, no, it doesn't. When it hits, it's amazing. It's great. When it doesn't hit, I look insane. Like I just go through an entire mental breakdown in front of people, and then at the end go, so somebody's crazy. And it's like, yeah, you. And it's such a, what's the word? It's like a, not double-edged sword. It's a harsh split. It's like, it's extremes on one way or the other. But it's interesting, like more times than not, which I love, by the way, it hits a lot more with women. Like because that bit is like, because it's about the subtlety of, I thought that was your phone. Nope.
Might have been yours.
Maybe. I'm coming back.
I noticed that a lot of your jokes are very like female friendly.
I really try. Like that's the thing. I whenever I do jokes, because I can admit to like, there is a certain amount of like played to certain areas of comedy. Like men and women are different. Like black and white people are different. Like gay and straight people are different. Like those things. Yeah. And so again, you want to, I feel like everybody does, you want to bring something new to the conversation if you're going to dabble into those things. Yeah. And one of the things, more than anything, whenever I do a girl joke, because one of the reasons I do girl jokes is because I'm obsessed with women. Like, in a way that's like, part of it is that part of me is like, I'm a straight man, so I'm very interested in you because I want you to be interested in me. Yeah. But then another part of it is I'm fascinated by the world that I have no idea, like how you exist like that, like how the dynamic works with like society putting that much pressure on what you are and who you are and what to do with your body and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I get a version of it, which is one of the jokes that I have. Yeah. But like it's not the same. I make it sound the same because I do have that, like, we're pretty much the same. Like, we have our things, it's just the baseline is a little different. And it's like, we went left, you went right because our branches, seeds, like, grew in different places. Yeah. But it's like, sorry, I'm getting veered. Long story short, what I was trying to say is, when I do my female jokes, when I do my jokes about women, I try to keep them at the very least, very first and foremost, I want them to be true. Yeah. So, like, even if you don't like the joke, you can say, okay, that's fair. That I have seen that girl several times out. She may not encapsulate all women, but I understand who he's talking about, and I've seen that. And so it's like,
Yeah.
It is what it is. I have been like pointed at about it though. I have a joke about purses and stuff that like a girl after I did it was like, we're not crazy. Like I'm like, I'm not serious. Like it's this. I mean, I'm sure you have the same dynamic with some of your jokes that are like.
I tend to offend people.
That's the thing, and that was the one time I ever. That's not true. There was another time, but it's not one of my jokes. It was because we were on stage being goofy.
I don't offend people. Like, I think because a lot of the stuff I talk about, like, it's like, well, this is kind of a fucked up situation. Let's find the positive in it, and stuff like that. And so that's kind of more my thing. But I mean, because I do tend to be like, this is my life, this type of stuff. But I don't know. Talking about you doing like the jokes about girls, like so the makeup joke.
Yeah.
What?
So that one came from it was just, and that is an interesting part of it too, is that it's about like me as a man discovering what that world is like just learning. Like I have no idea about makeup. I just thought it was that cream stuff you guys put on your face to get rid of like wrinkles sometimes, and then like sometimes I can see that it's like a little too much. And I'm like, okay, that's a little much. And then other times I don't even notice. It's like, oh no, I'm wearing makeup. And I'm like, oh, I thought that was just your face. And so like learning that, but specifically with the makeup joke itself, was like, yeah, my ex took me, same ex I was talking about, she took me to Sephora. And just looking at how much each individual item cost, I was like, oh, this is so much money to be beautiful. I can't fathom that because as a dude, I don't spend any money on my. I mean, you looks.
Can. But that's not a new movement.
Yeah, you can. I just don't. And it's like, even if I did, it's like the amount of like precise effort to put on makeup is like the respect is just, I can't eat. I like salute because like even like you have the eyeliner and that terrifies me.
So this is eyeliner from yesterday because I'm lazy. No, I'm not a good girl because when it comes to makeup, like I wear eyeliner and mascara and chapstick. Like that's in my person. That's it. I'm not a huge makeup person. So that's what made me laugh because I was like, the reason I don't wear makeup is because I just genuinely don't care. I think I was at a show with you once and I looked at you and I'm forgetting something. I'm forgetting. Oh, makeup. I forgot makeup. That's what I forgot. Oh well, we're already here.
Yeah.
Like so, it's like that made me laugh because I do have friends that go spend so much money on makeup and I'm like, why do you care so much?
Right. It's like just. Like, it's fine, but again, you come back to the like. Some people just like to when you like Kevin Hart says in his thing, and I just am not in that same class in the way like this thought process. He's like, when you look good, you feel good, and I'm like, I don't agree, but I see what you're saying.
I'm strangely concerned with what my gardener is doing right now.
The giant got out.
This is my life.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Maybe you just put it back. Yeah, I got nothing. And now it's just silent.
It's so creepy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. So, do you rewrite jokes? Like, or how often do you... Because I don't think I've ever heard you do the same joke.
Yeah. Yes, and that's one of my bigger problems. Like, one of the things I'm trying to work on is, like, forcing myself to go back and, like, make the joke... So, the way that I do jokes is, like, I work them until they're funny, but at the point that I get consistent laughs, I'm like, okay, that's good enough. And then I just put it in the backlog of like, that joke works. And though I don't go back. So I'm constantly building. And one of my problems is I'm constantly making new jokes.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, like you said, it's like, people are like, I feel like I've never seen you do the same joke twice. And it's like, I do, but I do them in like such a compact round that like, it's like, I was at one show with this joke. Okay, that was that one. This is the next joke for another set. Then I come back to that one for like a third one. And then I loop this one back over here. And it's like this weird puzzle where I'm throwing them all around. But then once they're funny, I put them over there and they just start gathering dust. And it's like some of my best bits. And I think I was talking to somebody else, some other comedian, and there was something, they said, I love this joke that some other comedian did. And I saw it at an open mic and I've never seen them do it again. And I was like, yeah, because that's comics. Like, once you have the joke and it's funny, you'll never see that in open mic again.
Yeah.
Like,
but I mean, like, I've been like, because I put you on shows before, and like, I'll see the joke, and I'm like, oh, I want to see this joke again, and then it's like, oh.
Yeah.
I think, like, because, you actually made me, like, I was shocked after you did your, like, Hermione rap. No.
Oh, the Harry Potter.
Yeah, well, that night, that was such an amazing night.
Yeah.
There was so much rapping.
I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
But what I love even more than that is freaking my favorite movie, 500 Days of Summer.
Okay.
Like, just any version
that movie causes so much anxiety for me.
Oh?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Interesting. That movie is like my bread.
I love it, but I get so much anxiety.
Because it does all the things. And I think it's because we grew up in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, a lot of the stories that we got told were on that tail end of, like, people are kind of getting bored with the same old, like, okay, they meet, they fall in love, they get into a little tiff, they fall out, they come back together, happily ever after.
Yeah.
Happily ever after stopped being a fun concept for us. Like, it became like, oh, yeah, okay, that worked out for you. That's not how most of us live.
What was it? I just had a conversation with somebody. Oh, do you remember yesterday? Did you see yesterday? It was the guy where he knocks out and the Beatles music is gone.
Oh, I need to watch that.
Okay,
I love
then I'm not going to spoil it.
So much.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil it.
Okay. Is it good?
It is.
Okay.
I was mad though with him.
You were mad at me?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I heard
watch
only
it?
one thing about that.
What'd you
The one spoiler that I heard is, like, turns out he's not the only one that remembers the Beatles, but, like, those people are grateful that he brought those songs back. But that's the only thing I know.
Yeah. No, it's nothing to it doesn't have to do with the Beatles.
Okay.
You'll see, so when you watch it, and just knowing that we've had this conversation, you'll kind of see where I'm irritated.
Okay.
Yeah, because like every now and then it's like I do love a good happy ending, but every now and then I want the happy ending to not exist.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, that feels forced, or I want them to make the other choice.
It's just it's sometimes I mean, I just agree with that statement. It just feels forced.
Yeah.
Like, and it's also and it's gonna get really into like my whole. And one of the reasons I'm doing comedy is I want to be a writer. And
oh my gosh, me too.
One of my things is like and this is making it way more serious than it is, but it's true. Like, media feeds a lot of what we end up being. It's a part of our nature. It's a part of, like, it's because of books, media, like books, magazines, movies, TV, that we have our thoughts about why things are or how things are. If you have never been introduced to, if you've never interacted with, like, I don't know, like a black person, but you watched a bunch of, like, side black characters, and each one of them was like, hey, yo, what's up, you guys? Like, I'm the cool black person. Like, that,
I don't think a black person's ever done any of
I
that.
know, that was the
really
wackest impression. Like, I really lost my card there for a second. But, like, I couldn't think of, like,
you're like, what do we do as a people?
Yeah, I could have just said, like, a Medea movie. But, like, any of that would have worked.
Like, I think Proud Family would have
been. Yeah, Proud Family would have been
up
But if that was your only interaction with knowing what black people were those movies, and then you ran into a black person, you would treat them like they were the characters from those movies.
Absolutely.
As opposed to, like, again, if you would watch, like, freaking Moonlight or any of the other, like, kind of deeper things. So it's like, again, I when you hear the happily ever after stories too much, you start to get into your head that, like, oh, that's how it has to be.
Yeah.
And I need to make it, like, I know a lot of people who, again, I know a lot of people who you can tell by how they operate in relationships and how they talk about their relationships that they feel like it needs to be the happily ever after. And in trying to chase that idea and trying to make it look like that to everybody else, they're in a trash situation.
Oh, yeah.
Like, things they should have let go of years ago. They're like, no, this is good because X, Y, Z. But the X, Y, Z has, like, A, B, C, D, and E that are, like, garbage. And it's like, that's bad. But, like, they just don't talk about it. Well, they do, but then they justify it. I get into a whole thing about like, that's when I start writing, when I get into that.
Yeah. All
of my movies are gonna be like just really like into the intricacies of, like, I was talking to somebody about, I want to do a mockumentary about, like, I would call it, like, this is a working title, I would call it, like, The Lie. And the idea is, like, how love is love to an extent, but how much of it is actually that, and how much of it is you convincing yourself it's that. Because a lot more people are in relationships and then go, like, the reason, like, if you ask them, why are you still with this person? They're like, we've just been together for this long. Like, we'll use time as an excuse to stay in a situation.
Like, I've given this much time.
Yeah.
Time is more valuable than money.
Right. And it's like, oh, that's, and, like, people don't believe, and there's this weird discrepancy between, like, I believe I deserve better, I know I deserve better, but then they won't get out of the situation they're in.
Yeah.
They're like, I know I deserve better than this, but I'm gonna stick it out because they're okay. Like it's like, okay, then you don't really know. Like I believe there's another thing. I'm getting into a whole bunch of tangent. I'm gonna cut this off here in a second. Last thought is this thing that I'm trying to work, because you ever have your stand up bits that like. There are your bits that are just funny, and it's just like, I just want to be silly and it's funny.
Yeah.
Then there are your bits where you kind of want to say something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a thought that I want you guys to walk away with. And be like, that's an interesting way of thinking about it. Like, I want to make you have learned a little bit, or maybe just think about something differently. Like, a little bit better, like the psychology thing. Like, how comedy has kind of become, and this is so pretentious, but how comedians have become the current modern day philosopher.
Yeah.
They're like, that's where people want to go, because they'll go for the laughs, but then they'll leave with some thoughts.
So I 100% am behind that statement. So when we have the getaway, because the getaway was at UCR, you're dealing with a lot of students. And so unfortunately with that, you have a lot of students that are very liberal. And I'm not saying that term negatively, but like where you're like, everything needs to be PC and everything needs to be this.
Right.
And I remembered I was like out there and I was like walking through the campus. I'm like, hey, there's going to be a comedy show over here. And this one girl looks at me and she was like, I'll start coming to a comedy show when you guys learn how to be funny and not make everything so offensive. And I was like, change doesn't happen in safe places.
Right.
And she kind of looked at me and she like paused and she's like, what? And I was like, if you're so scared to say something, you're not going to be the one that changes anything.
Right.
And she kind of was like, and she was at the show that night. And after she came over and she apologized, but it was really funny because I was just like, no.
Yeah.
If you're so scared to even talk about this, like, how is anything ever going to get looked at again? And it just irritated me. And I just remember being like so grumpy with her because I was like, no, I'm not doing this with you.
Because it's like, I mean, there's a whole thing about like PC culture versus what specifically we do.
Yeah.
And like, I think there's a pendulum swing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like for a long time, the pendulum swung towards like conservative values, towards like, okay, these are the things that are okay, and these are the things that are not okay. That's how it is. And you can make those jokes, and it's fine to pretty much say whatever you want, barring that they don't really get into certain topics. They still had their no-nos, but they were different no-nos than these no-nos.
Yeah.
So then the pendulum swing, because we started asking questions like, why is that? Why is that the case? I feel like there's a lot of people you guys aren't accounted for by the way that you're thinking. Maybe we go more this way and we talk about how those things are getting overlooked. There are certain groups of people that aren't being addressed, that are being talked about. But now we've gone so extreme to the other side that it's like, don't hurt any, like, conservative side was like, feelings don't matter. Like, we don't care how you feel. We have war to fight. Like, it's not about you. Like, we don't put that down, push that down. We don't think about emotions. And then people commit suicide and all that stuff. So the pendulum swung and we said, okay, emotions are important. Mental health is important. They're so important. Now, don't say anything ever that might hurt somebody's feelings. Yeah. Because gosh forbid you say the one sentence, like, I like the color blue. And then somebody's like, when I was young, my dad used to hit me and say the word blue. And so now every time I hear blue, I just think of sadness and I want to die. I'm going to die because you said that. It's like that level of extreme. Yeah. And it's like everything. And it's like everything is that. And it is what you said. It's like, if you're not talking about it, like, because it's like this is one of the things that I've been recently dabbling with but not putting on stage. Is just my own personal thoughts. There's something to the idea that like everybody knows what to say. Yeah. Everybody knows what the right answer is. Like, and I think that's one of the reasons that PC culture gets so over the top mad about it. Yeah. Because it's like, how are you that dumb? We all know the answer. We all know the answer to should women be treated with the same level of equality as men? Everybody knows that answer is yes. Yes. Everybody knows that answer is yes. So when somebody goes, well, here's a way that like it might not really be, then everybody's like, what's wrong with you? We've all agreed it's yes. Yeah. You think you can step outside the bubble? We've all as a society said it's yes. You're a monster. If you don't, it's a different version of groupthink.
Yeah.
But it's still groupthink. And again, it's like the pendulum just keeps swinging back and forth. And right now we're in the extreme of it, and it always goes through a phase. And it'll start to swing back towards the middle. Because kids will get tired of that too. Yeah. Where it'll be like, dude, you're sensitive. Which is essentially the argument that's been coming down on a lot of those kids. Or at least, and I say kids, but like adults, people in general. Yeah. But again, right now that's where the pendulum swings. Like, you're being too sensitive. Because there's a whole era. And again, to be fair, we're biased. We're comedians. We want free speech more than anything. Yeah. My friend brought up a brilliant point that's like, you have every right to say what you want to say, but you don't get to sidestep all the consequences that come with what absolutely. You say. So like, you can make your joke that might be racist, sexist, or homophobic. Just be ready to deal with the backlash of it being that. Don't act like, oh, what? You guys, why are you acting like this? It's like, no, you said what you said. You knew in the moment that that's what you were saying. Mm-hmm. And you were writing it because you thought it was funny. That's fine. Like, you thought it was funny. And I'm sure there are people that find it funny. But don't act like you have no idea that there's a group of people that's not going to find that funny.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's the thing where you have to, like, again, just look at where you are and go like, well, if they're not going to get away with it, I'm not going to get away with it. So it's fine.
I just had... So, you know, I announced my cancer on stage. Like, the first time I talked about cancer was on stage.
Oh. See, I heard you mention it, but I didn't know that was your first time telling it.
So, it was funny because we were talking about it the other day. We're like, you know, you're a comic when something weird happens and you're like, wait, but do I have a joke about it? And so it was like, the day I got diagnosed, I went on stage and I talked about it. And it's funny because I got a laugh, but then I had somebody that same night and they're like, you shouldn't joke about cancer. And I was like, I'm sorry. Do you have cancer? And they're like, no. And I was like, oh, I legit do.
I do.
Like,
yeah. And that's the thing, the other thing about that is like, there's a certain level of like, when you do that, much like how you were saying to that girl, when you do that and take away, like, you can't joke about that, they don't realize that when they say you can't joke about it, it's taking it to a level of seriousness that, like, makes you an innate victim. So, like let's say, we'll use the example of cancer, right? Okay. So, if you have cancer, and we all universally agree that you do not joke about cancer, then somebody who gets cancer feels like it's such an extreme
It's such a burden.
It's such a burden that you don't joke about, that you don't smile, you don't have hope or faith. You just kind of like bunker down and you go like, well, I guess I have to sit through this and do my best. Whereas like somebody could benefit, maybe, crazy thought, somebody could benefit from maybe in a sad situation having a joke. Yeah. Like laughing about their bad situation. What's more helpful in general? Yeah. To wallow in self-pity about the thing that happened, to be even slightly sad but have a little bit of hope, or to laugh at it, to go, yeah, it sucks, but like, man, life is short. There's a lot of stuff going on. Maybe it'll get better. Yeah. Maybe it has hope. Maybe there's a silver lining to this darkness. Yeah. And I feel like that's what we aim to do. Again, maybe not all of us from the same place, because there was another podcast I was listening to, and I was like, yeah, like I always thought that everybody got on stage and did the jokey thing the way I did the jokey thing, because I liked making people laugh and it makes me feel good. But it's like, then somebody in another podcast I was listening to was like, no, I think some people just do it for ego. Like, I feel good that I made people do this for me. Yeah. Not like I'm making people laugh for them. And I'm like, that was an interesting dynamic switch. Because I'm such a goody two-shoes. I'm such a like rose-colored glasses type guy.
I think that's why I get along with you so well.
It's like, everybody's just such a nice person. I'm sure everybody's doing it for the right reasons. Like, that's my innate state. And then I learn like every couple times. I'm like, oh, no, that's not true. But again, that's also a thing. It's just like, humans are humans, man. What am I talking like, you know, here's a whole nother thing. And again, I gotta reel it in because I feel like
it's gonna be a 2-hour podcast. Yeah,
I just feel like I know the way you set up the podcast is definitely like, all right, here's the thing, and then like we talk about the thing, then we talk about another thing, and like again, it's kind of smooth.
Like I said, I like the free flow though. Because I have not planned any of them.
Yeah, I just they feel like reined in though. Oh, like the way you do it makes it look like it's the only one is like the Patrick one is a little all over the place, but that's like again like your best friend, like that's hard to do.
I hate him.
But no, that was one of my favorite ones because again you guys are so close that I like that more than anything.
Yeah.
But neither here nor there. What was I saying just a second ago?
You were going to go on another tangent based on we went from PC culture.
Okay.
And then we talked
swings.
Pendulum swinging.
Then, see, this is what happens when I talk a lot.
No, that's
I
fine.
lose my train of thought and I can't even go
it's
back.
It's okay. What's going to happen is it's right before we'll be like, okay, that's the end of the podcast. You're like, I remember the thought.
Yeah,
and
that's exactly what's going to happen.
It's fine.
And then I'm going to drive home and be like, that was a good point. It's something about the silver lining of joking. Like, people do things.
No, I think, it's like my favorite part of comedy is when somebody comes over and they're like, hey, that made me laugh about something I didn't laugh about.
Yeah.
And I think that's
which
for
is
me.
always an interesting thing too, because like you're doing it and like it's cool and it's fun and you like doing it, and that's kind of why you do it. Is like you do want to have that camaraderie reach out with you. Like jokes hit because they're relatable more times than not, or they're so far outlandish. That's a big overarching statement. Neither here nor there. Like
there's like 17 reasons why jokes are
right. Jokes can hit several different reasons why, but the thing where like where somebody connected to it, and they're like, yo, that was exactly how I was feeling, or that's that. Like I had that happen to me like maybe 3 times, and every time I'm like, oh cool, that's so cool that like my thought. It's one of those like you're not alone. Like I don't know. This is the thing I've been thinking about recently is like memes are like the internet's way of saying you're not alone. Like every meme that I see that I like that hits with me that I'm like I do that. I'm like, good, like, cool, I'm not like, this has a bunch of likes and people going, I also do this. And I'm like, humans, we're not so different. Like, we're that's what the thought was. It came back. Okay. I just needed to talk long enough for it to come back.
You're good.
We're all, and this is just me, this is just how I think, this is how my crazy brain works. We were all born into this world, babies. And babies have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And they're just sponges, just taking in whatever is happening. When you are on the playground, like when you're like a little kid, you're so naive and innocent to the world that you both, like it's the paradox that is you're the most innocent, but in that innocence you can do the darkest stuff ever.
Mm-hmm.
And like by doing that, it's like how much we affected each other from you. Like the thing I say is like when you're born, what you become in this world, it's like almost not your fault. There's a level of it that at a certain age you have to take responsibility for your actions. At a certain point that's not okay. But like how you became that is like you had no choice. You were a leaf in the wind. Like for you to be put in a very specific situation where other people influence you with their stuff. Yeah. Like if you've ever had a bully or something, that very classic dynamic of like, you don't know why that kid was doing it, but if you ask them as an adult now why they were doing it, they'd be like, I didn't even think of it that deep. I just was like, you looked like that, and I was like, that bothered me because you were getting attention from this. Like, there's always something else.
I actually had a conversation with my middle school bully.
Yeah.
As adults.
Yeah.
And it was the guy she liked was really good friends with me, and so that's why she was mean to me.
Yeah, it's like this weird like.
And you're like, oh, but she didn't think about it then. She just knew she just didn't like me.
Right, and then like you grow up holding on to the stuff.
It's like I remember her full entire name, like the shirt she wore on Fridays. Like, oh my god.
And that was her insecurity coming at you, which created another insecurity, I'm sure. Yeah. And then you take that and put it on somebody else, and it's just like we're all doing that constantly. Mm-hmm. Like one of the jokes that again still in the beta form, but like one of the jokes I have is like when you're the most innocent you ever will be, you're put around kids who are the most evil they're ever gonna be, and then you just kind of like throw up on each other, and then we grow into adults like holding on to that stuff like that was what happened to me, and this is the reason. Either I did it or they did it. Either way, I'm holding on to like kids. Here's one of the kids that got like cheated on. Mm-hmm. I'm doing air quotes for those of you for the audio. Those who got cheated on in like middle school, like not even actually having sex, just like she sat with that person or held their hand or kid. Hold on to that into like I graduated college and I got cheated on once. Like, it's like, really? In middle school? That really? And like, you just hold it deep in your heart. Like, it really messes up your trust.
Yeah.
And that's like crazy to me that we all just do that. But it's like also like, I don't know, it fascinates me that humans have been alive for as long as we have. We've been studying the human brain as long as we have, and we still haven't fixed the baseline stuff. Like the ones that are pretty obvious and pretty understood universally, like, hey, don't neglect or hit your child. We all ain't got that down yet. Like, maybe show your kid some love, and then they won't grow into a monster. Like,
it's insane.
It's like, but like then also not too much love, because then they also turn into a different version of a monster. There's a sweet spot.
Seven Deadly Sins. Have you ever seen that?
The show?
No, they're just the idea of the Seven Deadly Sins.
Oh yeah.
So like
I love that concept.
Like some of them are based on excessive love, some are based on no love, and then some are based on like abusive love.
Really, I didn't know they were based on
Yeah,
love.
so like they're supposed to, like, so you'd be like, so as a child, if you got too much love, you're either going to turn that into lust or you're going to turn it into gluttony.
Oh, okay.
And if you get like no love, and so it's like there's like a whole breakdown of like how you receive love and then how that turns into your vices as you're older.
I would love to see that.
I'll have to find it and I'll send it. I can show you when we're done.
Yeah, that's like my bread and butter.
I love that kind of stuff, and I think it's so interesting to be like, oh, like yeah, this person got too much love and like abusive. Like yeah, it's like a whole structure of love and how it translates into your vices when you're older.
And it's interesting that again, as much as that's why I like this is one of my like baseline thoughts that are kind of strange. Which I've been talking strange this whole time. Why am I acting like this is different?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So conservative versus liberal, right? I like the conservative side's insults because they're so much harsher because they don't have the PC thing.
Yeah.
PC people are like, well, you're just a conservative. And it's like, shut up, snowflake. It's like they really hit harder. Yeah. But like, I don't think the conservative side noticed that they actually like that insult is actually like really on the nose, and I kind of love it because it's not, to me it's not an insult. To me that just says what I think people are. I think that people are individually like we're like a snowflake, right?
Yeah.
It's specific. Like if you looked at every individual snowflake, it's its own special thing. But it is a snowflake. It does fall under the same umbrella as every other snowflake.
Yeah.
And that's how I view humans. Is like we're all our own special little creature on life's journey. But you're not so special that like psychology or medicine doesn't work on you.
Yeah.
That all of those things don't line up. And I think that it's just like this beautiful, like, yes, you are you. There's nobody like you. But also, there's a lot of people a lot like you. And like, it's interesting that like when we talk about the 7 deadly sins and how they turn into your vices, that like somebody who comes from the same abusive parent being abused the same way, like those two people, somebody could go to gluttony and somebody else could go this way, but they're coming from the same base.
Yes.
And that's very interesting to me. That like you could develop into like just this amalgamation depending. And it's all such a dice roll, which is where I come back to my whole like it's not even your fault. Like what could you do? Like people I feel like at the same time that people make a lot of excuses for themselves and allow themselves to be like I'm freaking calling myself out here. Like I'm one of those people that like I know I should eat well. I know I should exercise. These are things I constantly tell myself I should do. But then I like the way McDonald's tastes, and I don't want to move. So then I don't do those things, and that's why I don't really judge people when they do what they do. Because like I have my vices, and I'm not sitting here like freaking. But your vices are worse than my vices, and so it's that. I lost it. All right, next thing.
Well, you brought up McDonald's.
Okay.
And you do have a joke about McDonald's.
I do.
Did you actually order 5 burgers or cheeseburgers from?
I didn't order 5 cheeseburgers, but I definitely ordered a meal fit for 3 people for myself. I went to the machine, and it was such a sad moment. It was like I was like cheeseburger. Okay, here's the things that I want, and then it was like quantity, and I was like 2. No, I could probably eat like 3. And then I was like, okay. And then it went to fries, and it was like, all right, small, medium, or large. I was like, well, I'm gonna go large. Like I gotta go large. And then it was like desserts, and I was like, okay, well, I don't want like an ice cream. That would be like I 2 apple pies for $1. I can take like two. That's a deal. So then I took 2 apple pies, and then it was like every drink is the same price. So I mean, I gotta get the large. Like everything was out of my hands. But then I was like just disgusted with myself. The thing that really got me the most was the fact that like there are options on there that I didn't know you could do. Like I didn't. There's like an option when you pick cheeseburger. It's like, what do you want on it? Here's the ingredients, and you can take them off. I didn't know they put salt on your burger. Like it's one of the automatic things that's already set, and it's like salt light, and I'm like, they salt my burger? I didn't know that, but okay. And I'm like, if that's what makes it delicious, keep doing that.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know they put salt.
Yeah, when you use the automatic machines, you learn a lot about McDonald's.
I don't think I want to.
I wouldn't.
I don't like using the machines. I feel like I crave like human contact.
That's funny. I was just about to say the opposite. It's like that. I feel guilty using the machines because I know what it's doing. Like I know that that's messing with somebody's job. Like the cashier is right there.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I love it because I went into McDonald's one time and like there was a cashier standing at the register, but there was a line for the machine, and I'm like, wait a second, no. Yeah. And I'm like, I like talking, like I'm stupid. I make jokes all the time, like and just kind of joking around. Like but I find that's so lacking. Like so I'm like I can't use the machine. It freaks me out. Right. I want to go and like I don't know. I think like it's because sometimes I'll go up and I'm like I have no idea. What do you recommend? And I like doing that, and I like kind of like getting people outside of like their like because I feel like some people are in a bubble all day, and like I don't even at the grocery store like I'll come and be like, oh, how are you doing today? And they'll be like, when you get somebody who's like genuinely surprised that you're like asking them and like looking at them, like when you're asking them, they'll be like, oh, I'm good. Right. And you're just like so I'm like I feel like I can't like I feel like I'm cheating on all my principles if I use the machine.
Yeah, no, I get that. Like 100. There was something that I learned like because I'm naturally an introvert.
Yeah.
And like I learned how to be extroverted, and so much so that now people believe I'm a natural extrovert.
That's funny.
And so like I see the worlds and I see the differences. And yeah, I would agree with you. Most people are like floating in this like weird, it's just me world. And it's only when that like you're forced to pop that bubble, like some loud noise happens and everybody looks and it's like what's going on, like like situations that make people step outside of that. But like in the day to day, there's something really, and I'm sure that like it feels like there's like a Dr. Seuss cartoon about this or something. I don't know why in my head that feels like he would have addressed it.
Probably.
But like it's like. If you watch people in that bubble, I don't know if you noticed this, but it's something I noticed like early on when I started changing sides a little bit, was like people walk around and the general like demeanor is like it's zoned out, but it's also like sad. Yeah. It's also like the one that used to get me a lot that like threw me off as a kid was like I'm a goofy, so I like you said, like I'm a goofy, so I'm just like I'm having in my head like a little joke fest, and like this is funny, and I'm like smiling, and then somebody down the hall would be like, "Why are you smiling?" And I'm like, "I just thought of a funny thing." And they're like, "Oh man, you look like you're having a good time," and I was like, "Why is that? Why is that the weird thing? Yeah, like being the happy person is the weird thing that you're like." That's why are you so happy? You're not like, why is that person look miserable? Why is this person look gone? Like it's really weird. And like I also am a club rat. Like I love the club and I love
really.
Yeah, that's my bread and butter. Which is weird because I'm straight edge and I don't drink or smoke. But it's because of the social aspect. Yeah. Again, it also plays to my obsession with women, but also people in general are super chill. And it is weird to see like people come out in their bubble of friends to a social situation, but then just stay in their bubble of friends. And then when I come in as the stranger and like, hey, pop in the bubble real quick, just saying, hey, what's up? Like the innate, like, what's going on here? Like, what do you want from us, sir? And I'm like, nothing, just being social. And then after a little bit, they like lighten up, and then it's cool. And then once they're like cool with you, they're like, wow, that was really awesome. Like I really loved that happened. But like the initial is so defense. Yeah. It's like a lot of fear.
Well, and I think like for me, it's like I struggle with depression pretty bad.
Really?
Yeah.
It's always the people you never expect.
Yeah, it's a surprise. But it's like I've always appreciated when people reached out to me, and it's like for me, it's like I I like making people around me feel better.
Same.
And like that's one of the things. Just like even with my students at school, like it's like you'll see like I have like one of the kids was funny because I was like sitting there and she's like, "Did you know you were humming the Mario Brothers theme song for the past 15 minutes?" And I was like, "Well, you guys are taking a test?" And she's like, "Yep." And I'm like, "Did I distract you?" And she's like, "No, it was actually super helpful." And I was like, "Oh, there you go.
I'll take it.
It's fine."
Yeah. No,
but it's like, but finding those kids that are like so like sad and trying to find a way to get them out of that because I know what it's like to be stuck in.
Yeah. Mine's is like I don't have that, so I don't understand. To me, it's like my lack of understanding of that world makes me like I feel so. It's like if I was a rich person and I see somebody struggling and it means nothing for me to give some money. It's like I'm so happy that if you're not happy, I want to help you get to where I'm at.
Yeah.
And like to be fair, again, you can't help people who don't want to be helped.
Sure.
Like don't save her, she don't want to be saved. If somebody isn't about it, if I try to be jokey with them and they're like stop it, I don't like this, stop it, or they're just like keep shutting it off and like I'm not gonna fight you, I'm not gonna make you do what I want, but I am gonna put out that hand, even to like the detriment. Like one of my detrimental, like I even have like a complex of it, like a superhero complex type thing, where like I'll see somebody like a homeless person like down, and my first instinct is to be like, hey, like what's going on with you? Tell me how you got here, and like what can I do to make you not be here. Like my friends always had to like, don't do that because like you don't know their mental place, and like that could easily turn into a bad situation. And I had to learn to start pulling back a little bit.
I didn't start learning that until I had kids because I was the same way before I had kids. Like I would get into random conversations. I had like a really long conversation with a drug addict in Hawaii.
Yeah, those always get me. Like it's a combination of like my hero thing and also I'm nosy as all get out.
Yeah.
So like when you tell me some like oh I ended up addicted to this, or like I had an abusive thing or whatever. Like that's why whenever you start talking like before the thing started, when you mentioned the little intricacies of divorce, I was like, oh no, tell me more about that. Like, and I don't know if it's like I really want to help or if it's just that side of me that's like the tea is so delicious. It's like
you're like, I'm not gonna get a divorce, so I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, and then that'll never happen to me. Or how can I avoid it? Or what
you
is
don't
it?
get married.
Yeah.
But no,
that rate is high.
No, I mean I get that. Once I had kids, then I was like, oh, it's not just experiencing stuff for myself. I was like, oh, I have to do this. It's like I take the kids to LA, and I'm like, okay, if you see somebody doing this, you guys just go on the other side of mommy and we walk. And my daughter, who's a lot like me, was like, oh, but why shouldn't we help them? And I was like, because you're 8, and that's not the right thing to do, because at this point, you're not going to be helping anybody. It's more detrimental to yourself. And then I was like, oh my gosh, these are the pep talks I should have gave myself. Yeah. Like even they had an active shooter drill at their school. And she came home. Oh my gosh, I was so heartbroken.
Because you remember, I know this is again tangenting, but like you remember when we grew up, where like it wasn't called an active shooter drill. At least I don't know where I was from. When we grew up in the elementary, middle school, high school, it was just like somebody might come in, you don't know, but it was like the tiniest drill. It was like one of those drills of like, we're doing it, but like this will never happen.
We didn't have them.
Oh, you guys didn't have them?
No, I'm older than you.
How old are you?
I'm 35.
Oh wow, I really forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, wow. Huh, that's crazy.
I'm gonna take this as a compliment.
I really thought you were in your at most late 20s. I knew you were older than me, but I didn't think it was by like 10 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So no, I didn't have active shooter drills, but like even my daughter was like, she's like, yeah, and I was trying to get my friend to come in the thing because I was like, baby, I was like, you need to take care of you, and I know that's like the hardest thing, especially for me to tell her.
Oh yeah.
And it's like and even my son was like, well, you have to do this, and I was like, you guys are doing everything wrong. And then my daughter's like, what would you do? And I was like, Mommy's gone through different training. We don't respond the same way.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, I think it's interesting because I don't hear too many people that's their response of like, oh, how can I help you? Like, but I mean, I think the superhero complex is kind of dying.
Yeah, no, because there's a lot more, and again, I think a part of mine is because of the era that I was raised in, how I was raised.
And where you're raised.
Yeah, Midwest definitely is a lot more homely. And the joke I always make about Kansas City more recently is like, it's like small town mentalities in a city.
Yeah.
Like big city, small town mentalities. Because there's a lot more. One of the things me and my friend noticed since we moved out here, was like, people always ask, like, what's the difference between this and that? Like, what is the vibe like? I'm like, the most interesting thing that we started to piece together is, I think, the anonymity of California lends to people being less responsible for their actions.
Yeah.
Like, they don't want to take responsibility. Whereas, like, so in Missouri, right, or at least where I'm from, you will most likely run into the same couple of people several times.
Okay.
Like, if you ran into somebody out and about just doing your thing, like be it club and bar, like whatever, gas station, you might run into, you guys won't be like best friends. You won't be like, hey, it's you. But like in your vague mind, you're like, I think I've met that person. Or I think I've seen them. These characters pretty much are the same. You'll definitely run into somebody from like your high school or your middle school, because there's also the section of people that just never leave.
Yeah.
But that's there. Here, you could run into somebody and never see them for years. Like, I've been to the club pretty consistently. Even the security staff changes. Like, everything constantly is changing and rotating, and like, again, because people stay in their bubbles also, that like there's a lot less like.
I run into set people everywhere I go.
Really?
Everywhere. And I was having this conversation with my cousin the other day, and she's out and does comedy as well. And so it was one of those, and she's like, oh yeah, I go here all the time. I've never run into anybody. And I went there like by myself, like I went to this one club by myself, and I was in there for like, seriously, I walked in the door and somebody was like, hey, and I was like, you're kidding me. I was actually kind of wanting to go, I was going to like a dance club, and I was just like, I just kind of wanted to go be by, I like going by myself and kind of just experience.
I go back and forth. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you catch me more times, again, Club Rat, I go every Friday, Saturday. More times than not, I'm going by myself. That's just out of like, that's who likes clubbing as much as me. Not many people. So I end up going out by myself. But if I could, I'd probably go out with at least one, just probably like one real cool bro, and that would be it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also like going out by myself at this point, because you don't have to take care of anybody else.
Yes.
You know, like I always, in the same way that the hero complex works, is like, it's hard for me to have a good time when I know my friend is sitting here and he's like not really doing anything.
Yes.
It's like, I feel guilty. I'm like, hey, do you wanna? And they're always like, I'm cool, I'm good. But I always feel like they're not doing the same as me. And they're not as like up like me. So I'm like, are you good? And they're like, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, okay. And so when I don't have that responsibility, along with people getting drunk and being like, take it home, make sure everybody gets home safe.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, along with that, I also like going by myself. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. I ran into somebody at Union Station in LA.
Really?
Yeah, I was like walking through and I heard, hey, Steph, and I'm like, oh, but I talk to everybody everywhere, so I know. That's
interesting, because again, I do a lot of socializing, and I run into maybe 2-3 people consistently. And not even consistently, just like every couple of months I'll run into somebody who I've seen before.
It's become a joke. Like, I can't go places without running into somebody. Like, we were at Disneyland last week, and I ran into somebody, and I'm just like, you have to be kidding me. Like, we were at Knott's Berry Farm a couple months ago, ran into somebody, and I'm
your
like,
world is very small.
I'm like, I have no idea how my world is so small. It's just because I'm from Southern California, but I've lived so many other places that I don't know how my world is so small. But I think it's funny. So yeah, but I've lived in small towns too, and I remember like, because I lived in Oregon for a while. Yeah. And going to the gas station, seeing the same people, and people knew who I was because I was Mexican and I don't speak Spanish. They're like, oh, you're Jeff's wife. And I'm like, well, there's that.
Yeah, I guess that's me. I can't just be myself, huh? I can't.
Yeah, like there was no, like, no matter where I went, like everybody knew who I was. And it was purely just based on I wasn't white and I didn't speak Spanish. Like if people come up and they're like, do you know? It's like, you speak slower. It doesn't make it
doesn't help.
And they're like, oh, you speak English. I was like, yes.
Maybe start there. Just assume that and then work backwards.
Well, no, but I would laugh about that because I was just in a Japanese store the other day and the girl was talking Japanese to everybody and then she gets to me and talks in English. And I'm like, oh, I would have been fine in Japanese.
Oh, do you know Japanese?
Hardly. I used to. I lived in Japan for a couple years, so I have like all the pleasantries. I was like, what are the pleasantries in Japanese?
Yeah, they are very nice. I'm a big old weeb, anime nerd, and so I also have the like baby steps of like, I watched enough that I knew the subtitles and I linked that word to this word, so now I know Ohio and I know like like sumimasen. I know the basics. I know how to get around.
I remember one of the first things they teach you when you go to Japan in the military is how to say I'm sorry. Because we're American.
Yeah,
Everything we do is offensive.
Our whole culture is totally.
It's like don't touch the mustache because they said it sounds like don't touch my mustache.
Oh.
So don't touch the mustache.
Interesting.
That's how you say it. But they're like you're getting off the plane. You're like you need to know this.
My thing is I also like the those words that like are so English. Like in every language, each one has one. But like the words that are so English that they just took the word and then added a thing. Like their word for milk is like milku. Or something like that.
Biru in Okinawa.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And like that's the same.
That's us.
Thanks. Thanks.
All right. So I know we spent a lot of time talking more about the philosophy of comedy and like which I appreciate. I think it's been fun. But I do have one more joke that you sent me.
Okay.
And I do want
you remember. Yeah, you gotta remember.
It's your autocorrect joke. And we were talking about all the connectivity of people, and I think that's so funny because I think this is something that everybody goes through.
Yeah.
I see my students do this where they change an entire sentence because they don't want to try and find a word.
Oh yeah, it's a very it's like that one's a 2-part universal joke for me because there's the joke of the main joke, which is me doing that at all, which is reworking the sentence, and then there's the joke within the joke, which is me going like restaurant and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like those are specifically words that I know that everyone messes up a little bit. It's like Wednesday, and then like it like switches over, or you just completely. Yeah, I don't know. That was interesting to do because I did that at Nick Police's the Covina Center of the Arts show.
Okay.
That's when I did that bit. Well, I mean, obviously you worked the bit, but that's where that recording comes from. And it was interesting because I remember when I was doing the entire set. It didn't feel like it was a totally same thing, but not. It's you know that thing where you're on stage and it feels like you're not doing well, and then you get off stage and then people are like, "That was really good," and you're like, "Where were you?" Like I didn't hear that at all. And I thought I always was like, "Oh, people are being nice. That's what they're doing. Like they're coming up, and be like, oh, you two, everybody did a great job because you went up like freaking blue ribbon." Like that's what I thought. Then I watched back, so I had my recording of it.
Yeah. And
my recording was off to the side of the stage, and the laughs sounded like they kind of hit. Then I watched Nick's because he recorded like from 3 different cameras or 2.
Yeah, I was there for his first one, so he recorded. I got recording from 1.
Yeah, he sent me 2 different angles, and one angle I watched it and I was like, oh, okay, I was getting laughs. The other angle makes it sound like I was doing so well that I was tempted to ask Nick, did you add laughs? I was like, did you add a laugh track to make me feel better? But like, then my friend who I showed it to was like, no, those are just actual laughs. No, he like that's so crazy that you would think he cares that much about your feelings to add laughs to your thing.
Added some volume there.
Yeah. So then I was like, so that was one of those jokes that like that most of that set like didn't feel like people were really vibing with, like I didn't really hear the laughs. And so I was like, okay, of course I get to my smartphone jokes and it's like an older audience, so I'm like not expecting it to hit at all. I'm just like, all right, I'm about to go through doing this joke, and then I do the joke and it's like the biggest laugh in that set.
That's
and
funny.
I'm like, oh, that's a weird one to hit. Like I guess that's a universal kind of.
It's more universal than you
thought.
thought.
It's like, oh, you learn. It's again one of those like you do the bit and you learn why it's funny or how it's funny or where it hits for different people.
Yeah.
And again, it's a good lesson in like not judging your audience before you do your bit, because I was like this close to switching to a whole nother set.
That's fun. I'm happy you didn't. That's actually a really funny joke.
Yeah.
But no, you try sitting in a room where I did this show and the stage kind of wrapped around, and it was funny because it seemed like everybody under the age of 30 sat on one side and everybody over sat on the other, and I've never had such a stark comparison over which jokes hit which generations is in that moment, because I was like, heavy laugh over here, okay, that was for them. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, it's funny because like sometimes, you see that where you're like, I would expect this to hit over here, and it didn't hit over here, and you're like,
right. It's like a weird focus group. It's like, oh, huh, all right, got it. Yeah. But yeah, no, smart technology. because I know your cousin's stance on smart technology.
Everybody knows my cousin's stance on smart technology.
Because I did one of the times I worked out that bit, she went on after me, and she did her whole set was a rant against that, and I was like, you and me are just on the opposite sides with this, because like my whole thing is like, yeah, I totally understand. I mean, that's the premise of the bit. Is like I totally get where it's ruining us in a lot of different ways. Like communication, again, there's a reason for the bold, there's a reason for the zoned out look, there's a reason for the attention spans being smaller, reading isn't as big. I get that. But also, the internet is really dope, and like I learned a lot from the internet. You know how much fun facts I have, and like daily life things that I figured out how to do.
Yeah, I'm pro internet.
Like DIYs that I didn't have.
I know. I'm about to show you an article in a minute when we get off of it.
Yeah, well, and like that's my jam, and again they'd say the communication thing, but it's like, man, I'm chatting to people. It's like, I get it. I'm not looking them in the face.
It takes an effort.
Yeah, it does take a little bit. And especially, I mean, especially in the, like, you're competing against all the other stimulation. Yeah. It's like, it's kind of like, there's another whole thing. I feel like the people in the live stream are going to really notice that I do this. You're
swiping your next idea.
Here's my ideas. These are the next things.
It's a visual movement to compartmentalize.
But, as the idea of where we're at as comedians, like the trying to make those next steps up in our career and all that stuff, and everybody's coming at it from their different way, which is why I really just like, I don't know if you had this, but I just really respect everybody's like trying things. Yeah. Like the buddy system is doing like a bunch of different stuff. Like Aaron's recent, like he's been going on the street and doing his thing with his little board. Like you and your podcast. Like I'm doing some live stream stuff along with trying to be better at social media and that whole thing. Like I respect everybody. And if you ever heard of like Channel 310, they're a bunch of LA comics that like all group together.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah, they're very interesting. Like one dude just released a comedy special that he self-produced and self-recorded. And
awesome!
Really legit. But like seeing everybody come together in different ways and make their come up via social media, because we live in that era. But in the same way that I was saying about like trying to communicate with people, the trying to break in to that social consciousness is like the hardest part of trying to break in right now is that combination of right now anybody who's in the industry is like, there's several ways obviously. This is about to be a huge generalization, so just with a grain of salt. But it seems like from what I've seen, the two ways in are like you make your own or you kind of get a cosign from somebody. And the cosign way has both two ways, because you could also make an argument that the make your own is also a cosign way, but we'll get into that. Yeah. The cosign way is like if you went to the Comedy Store consistently, like all the time you went to the Comedy Store to the point where they know you by name and face, and you've consistently done your stuff, and they're like, oh, okay, we recognize this person's funny, cosign, I'm gonna pick you and say, hey, be on my stuff. And then we'll kind of like bolster you up, like kind of like how it was in the older days where somebody like handpicks you and goes, that kid's got something, I'm gonna put my money on that kid. Yeah. And like it could happen there, it could happen at Flappers, it could happen at Laugh Factory, any of the big names or anybody who's putting their thing in your bucket and going, I want to support that, I want that to grow. Now, back in the day, it was a little bit more of a saturated market in a certain way because they were all trying to get into that one door of recommendations. Now with the internet, you can, again, make your own, but that making your own has become a version of competition where it's like, people don't want to touch you until you're already good. Yeah. So where before you could go to the Comedy Store over and over and just get in their conscious like that, it's kind of like, it doesn't matter if we know you. If we know you, but you can't draw your own crowd, given that you've been given the tools to make and build your own crowd, if you can't do that, then you're not competing against the kids that can. So we would have to really like you to pick you over the kids that can build their own audience from scratch. Yeah. And so the make your own becomes the one that gets held up even more. Like everybody who's up there now are kind of look at the kids like us coming up and are like, yeah, social media is like way easier because you just build your own following, and that's the idea. It's like you just post consistently and then people will like it. But the problem is there's so much of that. Yeah. There's so much, and you're not just competing at your level. You're competing at like every
all
level.
Of the levels.
Like you're trying to break into somebody's like, I already have my couple of YouTubers or podcasts that I watch, and I'm gonna stop to listen to who are you? and like that's a whole to do. And again, everybody's trying to find it. I'm still finding myself. It's like a little bit of an uphill battle. But again, it's the enemy of the best is the good. Like you struggle and then you figure it out and then you go up. But like it's very interesting to see that dynamic of the world of trying to chase it and it's like trying to make that come up. And like social media's play into that, like how technology and all that stuff has shifted the current into like, yeah, it's a lot more DIYs and a lot more do it yourself and build yourself, which is one of the reasons why I really, and I'm trying to get on Aaron and them's podcast too, because I can't sing you guys' praises enough about the whole buddy system thing.
Yeah.
Because I have only been around the scene, like I only recently started even hitting Riverside like that. Like I think it was in the last 2 years that I really started hitting into the IE, as it were, and to see it grow the way that it has. Like now you guys have like pretty consistently broken into the improv in Ontario. Like that is like nothing but game recognized game. It's like you guys built up from pretty much like just the getaway or like 1 or 2 spots to that point, and like that's the idea. It's like when you first start and you look at the improv, you're like, oh, that's where people play.
Yeah.
And then you like get there, and then you get there, and then you see higher heights, and you're like, oh, I could do even more. Like even at the level that we're at, it's like not like, oh, we made it, but like still, it's levels to go up.
I've gotten higher than I was.
Yeah, and it's like,
and that's the goal.
And it's very interesting, and like in that going higher, I would also talk to other people who are like not in comedy at all, because I drive for a hotel.
Yeah.
And like people ask me what I do besides this or what I'm doing, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing stand-up. And oh, that's super cool, because that's also the interesting thing is that there's such an untapped market, but it's weird because it's like every time comedy comes up, everybody says they love comedy and that they want to go see comedy.
Yeah.
But then it's so hard to get people to shows.
Yes.
And it's like this weird discrepancy where...
Because they're in their bubble.
Yeah, and it's also like, I feel like a part of it is this joke way that I put it is like the clout chase, where it's like, there's this weird thing of, it's almost less about the event as it is to say I went to the event.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get people to a place? It's not so much that the thing at the place is good, it's that everybody else is going to that thing, and I want to be a part of the thing that everybody...
FOMO.
Yeah, FOMO. I don't want to not know what happens at that concert, good or bad.
Yeah.
If it's bad, I want to be able to say, yeah, I went and it was bad. If it was good, I want to be able to say, yeah, I went and it was super awesome. Like, I want to be able to post the picture on social media and say, I was at this thing.
Yeah.
The problem is, it's hard to convince people that it's happening before it's happening. It's like like a club where it's like people, like that's why they put the like blinders on the windows and like only leave that sliver of the door. So when people walk by, it looks like there's more people inside than are. And once they get you to pay the $5 to be there, it's kind of harder to make yourself leave. Like I'm starting to notice the little marketing tricks as I'm like trying to make my own to figure it out. But it's very fascinating. Again, I mean, you are a producer yourself, so I know you know the struggles of like trying to get people to go to places.
And I know I'm taking a little bit of break, but the podcast is gonna keep going. But I'm taking a moment from break from producing and shows. Yeah. But I'll be out there soon again.
Yeah, and again, we appreciate it when you were, and we look forward to you when you come back.
Thank you.
But it's all so interesting because I feel like, especially in comedy, and I think it happens with all artists, because I feel like there's art and there's science. There's like the artist doing the performance, and then there's the marketing. And our innate state is not to do the marketing. Yeah. But like you have to do the marketing. Yeah. And it's like one of my biggest hurdles has been making myself do the marketing, which I hate, but I have to do it. So we do it. And it's not really as bad as we make it out to be. It's just like, again, our innate nature as the person doing, like the artist. It's like, I just want to make it so good that people see it's good and go, I want to see that. I don't want to have to be like, hey, can you see my thing? Hey, can you see my thing? Because then there's also the like little bit of self-hatred that comes with that, where it's like, if it was good enough, then I wouldn't have to ask.
Shameless self-promotion.
Yeah, it's one of those. You got to go through it, and then when you're there, and it's like, well, yeah, I had to do it because that's the thing. Everybody always forgets that like Dave wasn't Dave when he started. Kevin wasn't Kevin when he started.
Yeah.
Like all those people, Amy wasn't Amy. Like anybody that you know started at a point before anybody knew them, and eventually they had to say something to somebody. They had to go like, "I have a show," in order, and like that's the thing to remember. They actually still do that.
Yeah.
Like when Dave releases a special, there's a trailer, there's a commercial, there's something that comes out that lets you know it's coming.
Yeah.
It doesn't just appear, and sometimes they do appear, but like those are so far and few between, and they do so much. They don't do as well.
Yeah.
Like even Beyonce had a pop-up album, and that album kind of, I mean, it still hit because she was Beyonce, but comparatively to the ones that she like gave enough promotion for, they didn't like pop off like that. Anywho.
Well, I think we are good.
Good. Sorry for ranting so much.
No, it's fine. Because it's definitely part of the reasons why I love going and watching you. Like I said, I wish I could see some of the same jokes again.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I keep them in my back pocket. Honestly, it is that's the joke, but like it's real true. And it's gonna sound like I'm doing the promotion thing, but this is how I actually operate. It's like I save those jokes for the shows. So like when I'm doing a show, you'll see all the bits that I've worked on. Like open mics are always new material because they're open mics, so I'm trying new stuff. And like I don't, unless I'm really in a home, like I'm about to hit a state. So you're actually about to see the opposite of that statement that I just said.
Okay, good.
I'm about to hit a state where like I make myself, okay, I'm gonna hone these jokes. So I'm gonna start from my top, because I have a notes where it's like, these are the bits that I know work and are good, and I'm making myself go back and blow the dust off the ones that I haven't done in a while, and I'm just gonna go down the list, and when I hit the bottom of the list, I'm gonna go back up to the top of the list, and I'm gonna go down the list, and I'm gonna go back to the top of the list, until I like know for a fact that the entirety of it is good.
And then you need to put it all together and make your hour-long special.
Yeah, and then transitions and all that jazz. So, words.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see that.
Thanks for having me again.
Of course, thank you for joining.
I look forward to listening to the other ones that you upload.
Yep, there's going to be a couple more coming out. I'm going to get better about posting. I'm just so tired all the time.
Same.
Yeah. All right. Well, bye.
Later. Let me stop mine. Ow.
Nope, gotta keep going.
Uh-oh.
Save project as.